started just like any other on red base. Scout was the first one up, bouncing down the hallway with his usual restless energy, baseball bat tapping against his shoulder. He loved game days, especially when Capture the Flag was on the board. Nothing got his blood pumping more than snagging the enemy's intel and showing off how fast he was compared to everyone else. "Today's the day, baby," he muttered to himself with a grin, sliding into the mess hall where the rest of the team was gathering. He already pictured it, running circles around slowpokes, taunting the enemy heavy, and scoring the winning run like always. Engineer was fiddling with his wrench, Soldier was yelling about breakfast rations, and Spy was, well, being Spy. Then the loudspeaker crackled to life overhead, pulling everyone's attention. Today's battle assignment, Payload. Scout froze, his grin instantly collapsing. "You gotta be kidding me," he groaned, slumping against the wall. Of all the battle modes, Payload was the one he hated the most. Pushing some dumb cart across a track, slow, boring, and exhausting. Not his style. Capture the Flag was speed and chaos, his game. Payload? Payload was torture. Scout kicked the leg of a chair, not hard enough to break it, but just enough to make a loud clack that turned every head in the room. "Payload? Seriously," he shouted, throwing his hands up. "Why is it always the lame ones? I bust my butt out there for CTF, and what do I get? A stupid cart. A cart!" Heavy raised an eyebrow, spoon halfway to his mouth. "Scout not like pushing little cart?" he asked in his thick accent. "No, I don't like pushing little cart," Scout snapped back. "I'm the fastest guy on this team, man. What's the point of being fast when the whole match is just..." He mimicked shoving something with exaggerated grunts. "Ugh, push, push, push." "It's dumb." Soldier slammed his fist on the table, nearly knocking his helmet off. "Quit your belly-aching, maggot. War is war, and you'll play the role you're given. Suh." Scout rolled his eyes and threw himself dramatically into a chair, arms crossed like a sulking teenager. "Yeah, easy for you to say, Gramps. You love Payload because you get to scream and shoot rockets every 5 seconds. Me? I'm stuck babysitting a cart that moves slower than my grandma in traffic." Pyro let out a muffled giggle through the mask, waving their hands in amusement. Even Spy smirked behind his cigarette. Scout leaned back, legs bouncing restlessly under the table. "I swear, if I gotta spend all day watching a cart crawl across some tracks, I'm gonna lose it." Sniper leaned back in his chair, taking a slow sip of coffee before speaking. "Mate, you whinge more than a bogan at a broken vending machine. It's a cart, not the end of the bloody world." "Yeah," Scout shot back, pointing at him. "Easy for you, Tower Boy. You just sit in the back and click heads. Payload's like a freaking vacation for you. Better than running around like a headless chook," Sniper muttered with a smirk. Demo Man barked out a laugh, nearly spilling his bottle. "Uck, listen tay him. Boo-hoo, I didn't get tay play tag today. You're nae special, laddie. Sometimes you gotta get your hands dirty." Scout scowled. "My hands are always dirty, bro. I'm carrying this team half the time." That was too much for Spy. He flicked ash from his cigarette and let out a mocking chuckle. "Mon Dieu, you? Carry the team? Please. The only thing you carry is your fragile ego." The room erupted in snickers. Even Engineer, who usually stayed out of arguments, tipped his hat and drawled, "Reckon he's got a point there, son." Scout's face flushed red. He smacked the table and stood up, voice cracking a little as he shouted, "I ain't fragile. I'm just saying, Payload sucks, all right? I was ready to run circles around those blue morons, but no. Now I gotta be Mr. Delivery Boy pushing Amazon Prime down the tracks." That got Soldier howling, slapping his knees so hard his helmet fell onto the floor with a clang. Scout groaned, dragging his hands down his face. "Man, I hate all of you." Scout sulked in the locker room while the rest of the team geared up. He kicked at the floor, muttering under his breath, "Payload, stupid cart, stupid rules. Man, I don't belong in this kind of crap." Then, like a light bulb flicking on, he snapped his fingers. "Wait a sec. I don't gotta play if I'm sick, right? Yeah, that's it. They can't make me push no cart if I'm, like, dying or something." He grinned, rubbing his hands together. "Heh, I'll fake being sick. Easy. I'll hack up a cough. Maybe throw in a little limp. They'll buy it. They gotta buy it." Scout straightened up, practiced a dramatic groan, and clutched his stomach. "Ooh, oh no, I don't feel so good," he said in a whiny voice, then coughed weakly into his fist. "Ugh, Can't even stand, fellas. Better bench me today. He staggered toward the main hall, putting on his best about-to-keel-over performance. But as soon as he rounded the corner, Frenchie Spy was already leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, cigarette smoke curling lazily above his head. That damned smirk was plastered on his face. Mon Dieu, Spy drawled, eyes glinting. What a miraculous tragedy. The great scout, stricken by illness, conveniently just in time for payload. How very suspicious. Scout froze, face heating up. What? Nah, man, I'm serious. I'm dying here. He fake coughed, doubling over dramatically. Spy blew a ring of smoke into the air, unimpressed. Yes. I'm sure the enemy team will tremble in fear when they see our fastest runner bedridden with a case of, how do you say, selective laziness? Scout's eye twitched. It's not laziness, it's... He fake coughed again, but it came out so forced it sounded more like a bark. Spy chuckled under his breath, shaking his head. Pathetic. Truly pathetic. His fake cough sputtered into awkward silence when Medic suddenly pushed his glasses up and leaned forward with interest. Ah, so Z. Kleiner Vogel is unwell, yeah? Medic said, his voice smooth but just a bit too excited. V cannot have JIS. Nein, this calls for immediate medical attention. Scout blinked, caught off guard. Wait, no, I don't think we gotta... Before he could finish, Medic had already clapped his gloved hands together, eyes gleaming. To Z Lab. Spy raised an eyebrow and smirked, clearly catching on. Oh, this will be entertaining. Medic all but dragged Scout by the arm down the hall, ignoring his protests. Scout's sneakers squeaked against the floor as he tried to dig his heels in. Hey, Doc, I don't need no serious stuff. It's just a cough, you know? Little sniffle, I'll walk it off. Nonsense, Medic said cheerfully, pushing open the lab door with a flourish. Z's symptoms could mean anything. Ziz is Vi must investigate properly. Scout's stomach dropped the moment he stepped inside. The lab was already a nightmare. Stainless steel tables, buzzing saws, giant syringes full of glowing liquid, jars with things floating inside that definitely weren't FDA approved. Medic snapped on a pair of blood-speckled gloves and began wheeling over a tray of equipment. Now, lie down, Ja. I will run a few simple tests. We shall begin with the rib cage, perhaps a small incision. Scout's eyes went wide. What? He stumbled backwards, nearly knocking over a tray. No way, man! No cutting! I ain't even sick! Ah, so now the truth comes out, Medic said, smiling wickedly as he raised a bone saw that gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Tell me, Herr Scout, where exactly does it hurt? Or was this all a performance? Scout threw his hands up, panicked. Okay, I made it up. I just didn't want to do payload, all right? Jeez, you people are crazy. Medic set the saw down with an exaggerated sigh. Sehr good. Honesty. See? That was not so hard. He patted Scout on the shoulder like a teacher pleased with his student. From the corner, Spy exhaled smoke, chuckling. Bravo, Doctor. Our little faker sings like a canary. Scout scowled, face red, and jabbed a finger at them both. You two are evil. Evil. Medic just grinned. Nine? Just thorough. Out onto the battlefield, still grumbling under his breath, baseball bat slung over his shoulder. Man, can't believe I'm stuck doing payload after all that. This day just keeps getting worse. The rest of the red team was already lining up by the cart, ready to hold off Blue. Soldier was barking orders, Heavy was loading Sasha, and Sniper adjusted his scope. Medic stood a little further back, hands folded neatly behind his back, eyes narrowed behind his glasses. To everyone else, he looked calm. But in his head, he was already plotting. Scout Vance to skip Vork? Z's calls for a little lesson in teamwork. Medic's lips curled into a sly grin. As the siren blared and the gates opened, Scout darted ahead, zipping across the track to harass Blue. He was fast, cocky, taunting as usual. But every time he dashed back for cover, Medic made sure to accidentally withhold the healing beam just long enough for Scout to panic. Hey, Doc, little help here? Scout shouted, ducking behind a crate as bullets whizzed past. Medic smiled innocently, turning his metagun onto Heavy instead. Ah, I am sorry, Kleiner man. Did you need this? Perhaps if you were not so delicate, you could survive on your own. Scout's jaw dropped. Delicate? I'm the toughest guy out here. He popped out, only to immediately yelp as a blue rocket exploded near his feet. Doc, come on! Medic finally gave him a quick burst of healing, just enough to keep him standing. Then he muttered under his breath, voice dripping with amusement. Run, little Scout, run. This will be fun. Spy, perched nearby and watching through the smoke, smirked knowingly. Revenge, Doctor? Medic's grin widened. Revenge and science. After the payload match ended in Red's favor, thanks more to Heavy and Soldier than Scout, Medic retreated into his lab with a humming tune and a grin that stretched ear to ear. On his workbench, beakers bubbled and syringes gleamed under the harsh lights. Medic carefully measured a fine, powdery substance into a vial, his eyes shining with mischief. Scout thinks he can tricksy team, he muttered, swirling the mixture. But I will show him that it feels like to truly be ill. He chuckled, snapping a capsule shut and dropping a few into a small jar labeled with neat handwriting. Test subject A. The next morning, Scout strutted into the mess hall, still half asleep and reaching for his usual bottle of soda. Medic, already seated with a calm smile, slid the bottle across the table. Here you are, mein Junge. You look thirsty. Scout yawned and cracked it open without suspicion. Thanks, Doc. He chugged it down in seconds, burped loudly, and tossed the empty bottle aside. Nothing like sugar in the morning. Medic's grin only grew wider. It wasn't until the next day that Scout realized something was wrong. His stomach twisted, his head pounded, and every muscle ached like he'd run a marathon. He stumbled into the common room, pale as a ghost, groaning. I think I'm dying, he whined, late, collapsing onto the couch. Soldier stomped past him, laughing. Ha! Pathetic! The maggot can't handle a little combat, and now he's too weak for duty. But then the loudspeaker crackled overhead. Today's battle assignment, capture the flag. Scout's eyes snapped open. Wait, what? Heavy laughed thunderously, clapping him on the back hard enough to nearly knock him off the couch. Ha! Poor baby Scout. He finally gets his favorite game mode, but he too sick to play. Spy strolled by, cigarette dangling from his lips, and smirked. Quelle ironie. From the corner, Medic's laugh echoed through the room, sharp and gleeful. Karma, mein kleiner Vogel, is a wunderbar teacher. Scout groaned again, burying his face in a pillow. This is the worst. Scout lay sprawled across the couch, groaning dramatically as the rest of the team prepped for CTF. His bat rested on the floor beside him, useless for once. Man, this sucks. My favorite mode, and I can't even stand up without feeling like I'm gonna puke. Spy, ever the picture of calm, drifted into the room. He exhaled a thin ribbon of cigarette smoke, the corners of his mouth curling into that knowing smirk. He sat gracefully in the chair opposite Scout, crossing one leg over the other. Mon cher Scout, he began, voice smooth as silk. Your predicament reminds me of a little story from back home. Scout peeked over the pillow he had pressed to his face. Huh, what story? Spy tapped his cigarette against the ashtray, leaning back as though about to begin a grand performance. In a small French village, there was once a shepherd boy, a very loud, very annoying shepherd boy. He gave Scout a pointed look. Hey, Scout protested weakly. Spy smirked and continued. This boy, bored of his work, decided to entertain himself by playing tricks. He would run into the village shouting, Loup, unloop, wolf, a wolf. The villagers would rush to protect him, only to find nothing. He lied, again and again, enjoying their panic. Scout frowned, shifting uncomfortably. Sounds like kind of a jerk move. Spy blew out another stream of smoke, his eyes narrowing just slightly. Exactament. And then one night, when a real wolf came, he paused for effect, letting the silence sink in. The boy cried out, but this time, no one believed him. The wolf had his feast, and the boy learned too late that his lies had consequences. Scout swallowed, suddenly uneasy. So you're saying I'm like that kid? Spy smiled coldly, his accent curling around every word. I am saying, Petite Monterre, that perhaps if you cry sick too often, no one will come running when you truly need help. Scout blinked at him, pale and sweaty, then groaned louder, throwing an arm over his face. Man, you guys are the worst with your creepy lessons. I just wanted one day off Payload. Spy chuckled softly, the sound low and amused. And in exchange, you lost the day you wanted most. That, Scout, is what we call poetic justice. The rest of the red team returned from the CTF battle sweaty, battered, and grinning in victory. Scout, meanwhile, was still curled up on the couch, pale and miserable, listening to the sound of their laughter echoing through the base. He clenched his jaw, hating the twist of guilt in his stomach that felt worse than Medic's mystery pills. Finally, he sat up, rubbing the back of his neck. All right, I gotta say something. The room quieted, everyone glancing his way. Scout shuffled his feet, staring at the floor. Look, I was a jerk, okay? I whined about Payload, I lied about being sick, and I tried to ditch the team. That was wrong. You guys needed me, and instead I made it harder. His voice cracked a little, but he pushed through. So, I'm sorry. To all of you. Even you, Doc. He glanced nervously at Medic, who stood with his arms folded, eyebrow raised. I shouldn't have tried to pull one over on you. Won't happen again. There was a pause. Then Heavy stomped forward, laughing loudly as he slapped Scout's back hard enough to nearly knock him over. Ha! Baby Scout finally grows up. Demoman grinned, lifting his bottle. Aye, apology accepted, laddie. Just dinna try to trick us again. Spy took a long drag of his cigarette, smirking. Enfin, some humility? I never thought I would see the day. Medic stepped forward last, adjusting his gloves. His expression was unreadable, but there was a glint of satisfaction in his eye. It is good, Zat, you have learned this lesson, Menkleiner Vogel. Perhaps now you will value teamwork properly. Scout nodded, managing a small grin, despite still feeling queasy. Yeah, guess Payload ain't so bad if I'm fighting with you guys. The team chuckled, and for once, Scout didn't snap back with a smart remark. Instead, he leaned back on the couch, letting the weight of his apology settle. Maybe he'd earned back a little trust. And though Spy and Medic exchanged a knowing glance, neither said a word. The boy had learned, at least for now.